Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, that was very weak. Let's try that again. Good afternoon, everybody. A little bit better. We'll have to work on that still. Hi, my name is Tim Ash, and I'm the CEO of SiteTuners and a former keynote presenter here at Affiliate Summit. I've spoken here. They gave me a little badge. I guess I've been here 10 or more times. So how many of you are in that same group, 10 or more times? All right, a couple of veterans. Sorry, sir. All right, today I'm going to talk to you about conversion myth busting. How many of you care about improving the efficiency of your offer landing page or website? Okay, that's why we're here, right? Okay, but a lot of us go about this process the wrong way. So what today I'm going to do is not tell you what to do, but tell you what not to do and what to think about instead. Is that fair? And I'll be glad to leave as much time as you like for Q&A at the end and answer any of your questions. Before I forget, you each should have a little survey form. Please, please, please fill that out before you leave. You can leave it on the table. You can hand it to the folks at the door. We really want your feedback, okay, about how we're doing. So good, bad, or indifferent, just let us know what you think about this session. Okay, we'll try to improve it next time. Sorry in advance. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about my perspective. I've been at this a while. My agency, SiteTuners, is based in San Diego, but we really work with clients all over the world. And B2B, B2C, e-commerce, we've seen it all from gaming to adult to consumer offers, anything. We've seen every industry as well. Payday loans, EDU, lead gen. So basically, we help companies improve the efficiency of their websites and landing pages. And we work with a lot of folks in the affiliate space, obviously, because we all care about making money. We can help redesign websites for higher conversion. We don't build them, but give you a blueprint for high converting websites. We also, of course, do lots and lots of landing page testing. And finally, we help companies become self-sufficient by mentoring them through our conversion management to become more advanced optimizers, if you will. So if you want to learn to fish, we'll teach you to fish. So that's our perspective. And we work with a lot of big clients, small clients, blah, blah, blah. My VP of business development said I had to put this slide up. Okay, but enough of that. Let's just jump right to what we're here to talk about, the conversion myths, the popular myths. And I bet you, I'm going to do a show of hands, that most of you have heard or even maybe uttered these words yourself. So I'm going to start with the first one. We need a responsive website. Okay, who's said this or heard it said in the last 3 months? Come on, raise your hands. Don't be shy. Keep them up. Okay, we need a responsive website, right? Now, I'm going to challenge this a little bit. But I'm going to take you back to the days when many of you might not have even been born, the days of only Netscape and Internet Explorer. Well, first we had Netscape, then we had another browser called Internet Explorer, and that messed things up because now you have to design 2 different versions of your website just to suit Internet Explorer. Any of you old enough to remember Internet Explorer version 6? May it die a violent death. Yes, so there's you had to have special little tricks just to make it work for that because it broke most standard websites, or at least the way that most people code it. And we thought, this is horrible. We're taking this unified internet, this beautiful thing, and we're slicing it up, and we have to accommodate every little browser version. How horrible is that? Is that bad? Yeah, it's really bad. But now, it's gotten worse. We started off with, we have smartphones, we have tablets, we have laptops, we have, 80-inch flat screen, LED, this or that, right? No, 4K Ultra. I just picked up one of those. And what are you supposed to do to accommodate all of these devices? It's anywhere on demand. Any of you are admitted glass holes and you have the little video thing on Google Glass? No? Okay, good. Do you know they did away with that? Yay, okay. 1 for humans, 0 cyborgs. Okay. So the myth is that we need a responsive website. It goes a little something like this. We have to run across all devices. So let's get something that, here looks good on the desktop. We'll do it for tablets and phones. We'll move it around. You see, we take the gray things and the blue things that were 3 across here. We're going to stack them up on the smartphone, right? Who's done this? Come on. Okay. We need a responsive website, right? And then we'll code them into one-page websites. How many of you have a one-page website? That have the little slices. So you have like a page screen full, then you go down, it changes background colors. How many of you have parallax moving video backgrounds on those? No, good. You're shaking your head, no, ma'am. Thank you very much. No, just say no to moving video backgrounds. I can tell you why later, but that's a different topic. So we do this, and we think we're done, right? Time for the reality check. The reality is that, in the immortal words of Richard Banfield, who's one of the keynotes at my conversion conference event series, he said, most responsive websites are infinitely scrolling pieces of crap. Can I get an amen? Amen. Thank you. And it's true, because what does responsive mean? Responsive means to be responsive to the context that someone's in. And if you just glance at these three pictures, you'll realize that what you're doing with your phone is very different than what you're doing with your tablet, and where you're likely to use it, what times a day, and how you think about it or relate to it, right? Phone people are extra ADD, if that was even possible, right? They're concerned with time pressure. They care a lot more about their current physical location. And there's just a lot of things that are very, very different. Plus, of course, the interface of the devices themselves. We've already talked about that. I mean, anybody expect their visitors to fill out a form on their phone? Come on, be honest. Okay, that's probably not going to happen. So maybe even your calls to action are wrong. You ever tried to fill out a form on a phone? Do you know why Amazon is dominating everything? One-click checkout. Any monkey can push a button, and we do often. I am a subscriber to Amazon Prime, a very happy subscriber. When they get that drone delivery, I'll be even happier. Half hour, right, to anywhere, if that ever happens. But the point is that we're very unlikely to do certain things on certain devices. It gets worse, folks. We actually multitask. We use our screens at the same time. This is from Google's study, a couple of years old, but still, you can see 81% of us watch TV and use our smartphone. 2/3 of us will do laptop combination with smartphone or TV with our laptops. So you don't even have undivided attention in any one of these venues, right? So what are you going to do? So here's the problem I have with quote-unquote responsive. And I call it responsive light because there are people doing good responsive out there, but that's not any of us. We're the 99% that do shitty responsive, okay? First of all, it breaks the hyperlink paradigm. If you have a website and you have navigation and you have things to click on, it goes to other pages. It doesn't just jump down further in your single-page website. So if you're optimizing a website and you're trying to get higher conversion, the only thing that you have left to optimize is the order of the chunks on the page. Really? Well, I can tell you, the important stuff needs to go at the top. There you go, you're optimized. Congratulations. But you've lost all control over how you organize and experience that information. It's just an infinitely scrolling piece of crap. Also, like I said, what we're doing right now is we're ignoring the context of the visitors. We're ignoring what they do. We're just kind of shuffling the same content around. We don't know if they look at it on other devices, what times a day. And worst of all, we also distort spatial relationships. Do you think that your search bar on a 32-inch monitor looks the same as it will on your mobile phone? No, it doesn't. Do you know that little, what do you call it, like a persistent hover over thing you have on the right? Well, that looks pretty good on a web page. It looks like crap on your phone for two reasons, but probably won't even work. An overlay won't even work on your phone. Second of all, it's going to block content and cover up content on your phone. And if you look at it on a really wide screen, it's going to be 10 degrees off to the right in your visual field, and you won't even notice it. Because a lot of what usability is in context is spatial relationships, containment, where things are relative to each other. So if you just start stretching things, you lose that. You lose the spatial relationships, and you lose the usability of it as a result. And finally, how many of you have done this exercise of designing responsive websites? Raise your hand. Okay. Keep your hand up if it cost you a lot more than making the traditional website that came before it. You raised your hand really quickly. The reality is, if you're going to do it right, you have to make sure it doesn't break on a bunch of different devices, and you have to test it. There's a lot more cost. In theory, it's like, why would we want to maintain 2 sets of templates? That's double the work. Well, guess what? Most responsive projects that I've seen that are done right cost 5 to 10 times a regular website redesign. So as long as you're okay with that and you're going to do that and invest in it, that's fine. Most of us don't, and then you get an infinitely scrolling piece of crap. Well, but also heavier code. Now remember, most of these responsive websites are client-side, which means that you download the whole page, and then depending on what device it's being viewed through, you're going to reconfigure it. That means you have every version of the page downloaded. So if you're on an iPad with the Retina displays, you need images that will look good at 4,000 pixels wide. You can't do cheap stuff. You can't have cheesy kind of little tiny images that you upscale, right? So you have to download all of these assets often, if you code it wrong, that are going to actually make the experience worse because it takes so long to load in all the different variations and the highest quality possible version. So these are all just landmines lurking below the surface that you need to be aware of, okay? So here's, again, I don't have answers, folks. I raised a bunch of questions in this presentation, but here's the stuff I think you should focus on thinking about. I think for 95% of us, the right thing to do is to create separate experiences, okay? And that means that we don't just reformat the same info. How many of you have some kind of e-commerce catalog that you sell stuff through online? Anybody here? Okay. So and the folks that have e-commerce catalogs and regular stores, let's say you go to bestbuy.com or something. I promise you, I know one of the most used features on the mobile version of bestbuy.com. Anybody want to guess? Search box, yeah, because it's harder to find stuff on a phone. And what else? Store locator. If I'm on a mobile device, I'm going somewhere to buy something, I'm considering Best Buy, I want to know if it's in stock at my local store, I want to know the closest store. Guaranteed. That's a different call to action. Your call to action is to get me to go to your physical store. Or if you're on a mobile device, do you really want me to fill out your mortgage application right now? Seriously? Wouldn't it be easier if you picked up the phone and had a click to call button? So this is what I mean, just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic isn't the solution. The right thing to do is to have a streamlined, cut-down experience. You can't, the editing is the hard part. Mark Twain was asked to speak at an event a long time ago, obviously, since he's dead. And he said, well, how long should my presentation, is the presentation have to be? And they asked him, well, why does that matter? And he said, well, if it's an hour-long presentation, I'm ready to go right now. If you need a half-hour presentation, I'll need a week. And if you need a 5-minute presentation, it's going to take me 1 month to prepare. Editing is the hard part, folks. So my suggestion is you start with your full-blown web version of whatever it is you're building. But then radically rethink the context and prune it down. Not just prune, machete it down, blow it up, whatever, and get it down to that little tiny subset, the 80-20 rule. What is the 20% of functionality that needs to be left on your site that's going to be 80% useful to the mobile people? And it's very different. You can't just do the kitchen sink and reformat 3 columns down into 1 and think you have something that's good for mobile people. They don't read, they need different calls to action, and they're most likely coming to your site with different intent. That's really, really important. Okay. A lot of what you need to do as well is, in terms of templates, what I recommend largely, and this is no surprise to any of us, the bigger the screen, the higher the conversion rate. Now people say, mobile doesn't convert or mobile's crap. No, it's not that. It's just we'd rather not have these awful, unoptimized experiences on tiny screens. So the more screen real estate, the easier it is to get things done. Okay? So in a way, you could think of with all the tablets and the resolution on them these days, that a tablet's essentially equivalent to a web experience. You can count on at least 1024 wide on just about any cheapo tablet. Okay, so what we recommend is designing a set of templates for your web and tablets, and you can make accommodations, for example, pinning your navigation bar to the top of the page instead of having side navigation, things like that, so it works on both. And then a completely different set of mobile templates. Don't be lazy, folks. Create a completely different mobile experience. In the long run, it'll be easier to maintain those 2 separate things than it will be to try to have one grand, unified theory of everything, responsive version. Okay, anybody want to call bullshit on me? Anybody want to argue any of this? Let's do it. For how many people does this resonate? How many of you are struggling with this and kind of thinking, yeah, should I go down the responsive route? Yeah. 95% of the time the answer is no, don't. Save yourself the trouble, create a web/tablet website and a mobile set of templates. Okay. I think I've just saved many of you thousands, tens of thousands, or maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars and a very painful experience. Okay. Myth number 2. A or B, tactical testing? Let's ask the audience. The audience is always right, and it's true, they are always right. But tactical testing is the answer to everything. How many of you think conversion rate optimization is split testing? Come on, be honest. No, it's a lot more than that. I wrote a book, which I'm going to give away many copies of at the end here, so if you're interested. 450 pages. Only a small part of this is about testing, okay? But unfortunately, it's become kind of synonymous with conversion rate optimization. It's an important way to validate what goes wrong or what's right, but it's not the answer to everything. So here's the myth. More and faster testing is the answer to everything. I can't tell you the number of times I've heard people say, yeah, we run 4 simultaneous tests, and we do one test cycle every 2 weeks, and we're running really, really fast. We're doing lots of testing. And do any of you care about the velocity of testing? No, you care about more money. So you have to measure it by the effectiveness. Are you getting results versus the efficiency of how much activity am I seeing? Just because there's smoke doesn't mean there's fire. So, how good we are depends on how much we test. Well, here's the reality. Let me paint a little thought picture for you. Come with me, okay, to Mount Everest. We're ascending Mount Everest. But as usual, conditions are really, really bad up on that mountain. You can't see anything. It's a whiteout. It's a blizzard. You with me? And we got to find our way to the top. So what are you going to do? Okay, I got an idea. I got a strategy. I can't see anything. I'm going to feel around and see which direction is the fastest or highest step upwards. Going better, getting higher, right? I'm going to take that step. Okay, now I'm in a higher place. I'm going to look around or feel around and take another step in the steepest direction upward. Is that a good strategy? We'll test. We'll find stuff better. We'll climb. We'll take those steps, okay? Well, no, you can't see, so that's a given. By the way, can any of you see in the middle of your day-to-day marketing activities? That's the blizzard, folks. That's what I mean by the blizzard. We're busy doing stuff. We're checking our pay-per-click campaigns, we're doing fraud detection, we're doing whatever we're doing, but we're not really seeing the big picture of conversion. None of us can. Okay, but so is that the answer? Climb. Good news, the next morning is just crystal clear and we get to look around. So this is where we started our climb, right there at the base of that little hill. And by the end of the night, through much strenuous climbing and testing, we arrived at the top of that hill. Woohoo! That's good, right? We got to the top because we took a step upward every time. And when we couldn't get any higher, we were done. We were at the top of a hill for sure. Problem is, that's not where we wanted to be. We wanted to be at the top of the mountain. And so I hear a lot of this stuff. You should always test everything. You can only improve things by testing. What a bunch of horseshit. You really want to get there, but in order to get there, you have to cross what I call the valleys of tears. If you have optimized for one local little spot and you're doing really well, then everything you do from this spot is going to be worse. And your coworkers are going to look at you and say, you're an idiot. You keep running tests and you can't beat the control. You can't beat the current version. And your boss, if you have a boss, is saying to you, you're losing me money even by running these tests and you can't seem to come up with anything good. Right? But you want to be here and you can't get there by testing. You can't get there by stepping. So again, I just want to warn you about a few things. One is that the testing culture takes over everything. It's all about test velocity, cranking things out. We do sprints. How many of you do sprints and scrums and you're agile? How many? Come on. Stand-up meetings. Okay, great. Okay, don't confuse activity. We've worked with some clients that they're doing marketing sprints every week. Code changes every week to change their user interface of their website on a weekly basis. And we said, what are you scrumming exactly? What are you sprinting? It's like, well, we're agile. Okay, good. Might as well be Agile Six Sigma while you're at it, right? So testing velocity becomes kind of the heartbeat of the organization. You're wired differently. How many of you are from New York? Anybody here from the East Coast? Nobody admit? Okay, Stu in the back there. You, sir, too, yeah. We gonna have a problem here? No, just kidding. New Yorkers are very nice, but they move at a different speed to us Californians, right? And it gets wired into your DNA and you confuse activity with progress. Just because you're busy doing something doesn't mean it's good stuff. Now, testing becomes a crutch, too. How many of you have run a test just to convince a coworker that they're an idiot? Happens a lot. It's settling bar bets is what I call it. So you get to test stupid stuff. Oh, should the font in our footer be changed from 10 to 12 point? Who cares? And by the way, as your page gets better and your ideas get worse, because you've used up all the good ones, you're going to very quickly plateau. How many of you have run a test, had a great result, tested the same page again, and had very little lift or no lift? Happens all the time. You probably used up all your good ideas in one test. But the other thing that I really hate about this kind of over-reliance on testing, is that it keeps you from doing the important stuff. And again, I've literally heard people say this. Never redesign your website. That's stupid. Never plug in back-end technologies like marketing automation or email data append or lead scoring. Why would we want to do any of those things? Those are plumbing things that might take us 6 months to implement. We would miss 12 test cycles, right? So the focus becomes very, very much on little tiny stuff and nothing important, things that really matter, like business model changes. We have a lot of clients that come to us and let's say they have a subscription-based offer or sign-up of some kind. Well, they go, well, ours is credit card required. Well, we say, have you tested? No credit card required. Well, they're not willing to unplug the plumbing and do the back-end changes they need to test a different business model. And offer your leverage is in your business model, how you collect information, how you stage things. That's where you get the really, really big wins. But you're too busy testing the current thing and optimizing, and you're polishing a turd, okay? You're gonna get to the top of the little hill. Congratulations. But I want you to think bigger. So here's what you should think about. If you are going to keep testing, of course, pick testing tools that are flexible. And by the way, the good news is there are a lot of them out there now. They're getting cheaper. They're getting more flexible. A lot of them allow you to test on mobile, which is great. But also understand when testing is not the right answer, when it's not appropriate. That's really important. And focus on profit improvement and not testing velocity, or what I call focusing on effectiveness versus efficiency. Effectiveness is doing the right things. Efficiency is doing things right. Okay, they're two different things. And then if you are going to test, have separate tracks. One is dumb stuff testing, green button, orange button. I don't know which one's better. But, okay, well, maybe we'll test a different sign-up flow. We'll have 3 different versions of our sign-up flows. That's a little more strategic. It's going to require resources. It's going to roll out over a different time frame. Okay? You got to invest in it. And stop testing when you're doing other more important stuff. And believe me, redesigning your website, because I can look at any one of your sites. We do reviews of websites, either 45 minutes for a single page or an hour and a half for a website. And I guarantee you, any of our senior consultants can poke a bunch of holes in your site and make you a bunch of money today, just by telling you what's wrong with it, okay? But you're not going to fix your website because you're too busy testing your website. It's not the one feature at a time or do this once or twice. It's more about fix 80% of the problems in one shot. That's going to move the needle. That's going to make it easier and better for you, okay? All right, myth number 3. Designers should create your landing pages. How many of you are involved in the visual design of your pages? Okay? How many of you manage folks that are? All right. Designers should create your landing pages. We're in the era of the specialist. Everybody does very specialized things, right? Well, our creative director said, you know how many arguments start with that phrase in our world? Our creative director says, you want an argument ender, folks, if you ever want to argue about websites? It comes from the creative director, and it's a very simple statement. That's off-brand. How do you argue with that? That's off-brand. Okay. Do you want to make more money or not? That's off-brand. Okay. So here's the myth. Design is best left to the pros. And folks, by the way, for those of you that are designers, I'm a recovering artist myself. I couldn't make a living at it, so I had to go into internet marketing. But I mean, I do photography and painting and other things in my own spare time. So here's a site that won a design award. See, it's the site of the day. That's why I picked it. Tell me what these people do. POCO people. About, folio, contact news. Social media sharing. Don't forget that. That was done by designers. Now, not all designers are bad, not all designers are evil, okay, but what do they focus on? Appearance, outward appearance. I don't know what it does, but it sure looks good. This is an actual quote from one of our clients. We work with them for a couple of months, figuring out what's wrong with their user experience, doing detailed narratives and usability studies. We came up with scenarios of how people should use their site and what they want out of the process. We came up with rough wireframes. We gave them to them, and they said, oh, we're just going to polish it up, right? We have our brand guidelines. We know them well. We don't expect you to wrap your arms around them, so we'll do the visual part. Sure, okay. And then they come back with a website that was nothing like what we talked about. I mean, functionally nothing. Completely different. And I said, what happened? And you know what they said? In our company, wireframes are a rough point of departure for the visual design. In other words, we're going to chuck what you did, and the visual designers can do whatever they want. That's really what happens. And a lot of times we defer to the visual designers because they're better visual designers than us. It's true. I make ugly websites. My designers do much better than I do. That makes sense. Okay, here's the reality check. This was my house about 9 months ago. Cute little house, right? San Diego. I liked it. Wasn't big enough, though, for the family. So we decided to do a major remodel. You ready yet? Major remodel. Add a second story. Pop the lid, right? So my question to you is, what color should we paint the bathroom? Anybody? No, there's no right answer. The answer is, you shouldn't be talking about bathroom wall colors right now. But that's where we start. Ooh, we have a brand new look and feel. We've refreshed our website. Here's the process. Here's the problem. 50 years of termite rot. Water damage under the kitchen floorboards. Posts that weren't nailed into the cross beams underneath them. Had to fix all that subfloor stuff and then put down new plywood and get big beams in there with cranes, right? Frame it up. Run electrical and spaghetti and plumbing and rough plumbing through the walls, right? Drywall the whole thing. What haven't we done yet? We still haven't picked the bathroom color. So in conversion, I've seen this again and again. There's huge potential damage if your designers take the lead in designing your site. So I'm going to walk you through a much more disciplined process for redesigning your website, coming up with a blueprint for higher conversion. This is what we call is the basis for our strategic jumpstart that we do at SiteTuners. So detailed understanding of the business, diagnose problems from the perspective of your visitors, right? So have a kickoff meeting. We want to know everything about you, competitors, your value proposition, the technology your site's built on, all this stuff, seasonality in your business, traffic sources, any information you have about your visitors or users, right? We want to really, really understand that. Then what we're going to do is focus on the customer experience. What are people coming to your site to do? And how does your site work in relation to that? So what we do is we come up with scenarios. Who's the person? What are they trying to accomplish on that visit? Should be pretty easy to define for most businesses. And then we grade them and we say, what's wrong with this? Okay, we do a narrative walkthrough of the site and the site experience. And we actually say, where are the stumbling blocks? We walk a mile in your visitor's shoes. Don't forget that part. Whatever you can do to pull in the voice of the customer through usability testing, surveying, anything else. And then we construct these written narratives so they're easy to share with the team and understand. Then you go to wireframes. Now, when you go to wireframes, you want them to be this detailed. They're not just back of the napkin stuff. They're basically exact layout. Labels for important things like navigation, headlines, okay, controls. What, are you going to have radio buttons there, checkboxes, or a drop-down list? I don't know, but you better figure it out ahead of time. Okay. Once that functional stuff has been done, then we create a visual layer. Now, did you notice, like, for example, when you look at it this way, you can kind of tell this is going to be slightly more important, this box. Because it turns out for Canon, actually people don't buy cameras and stuff. They mostly buy ink cartridges for their laser printers and stuff like that. So you can see that that's more important. By the way, their vice president said, we still need a commercial at the top of the page. Said, okay, well, we'll make a skinny one. But what we do here with the visual designs, this is a very necessary step. You still can't give it to your visual designers until you give them a rough visual design. And the reason is because you have to tell them what is the relative importance of things on the page. It's really easy to over-decorate a page and change the proportions and the importance of things. If you use a slightly bigger font or a slightly more eye-catching graphic and it's not in proportion to the thing that you're trying to accomplish on the page, if it's not so directly supporting your intended calls to action, it's actually going to make things worse. Okay? So we go there, and then after we hand over those layered Photoshop files, we also stay on them. And as they build the site, we check back with them. And you say, no, remember this thing we agreed to over here? We are going to stick to that. So you have to be kind of a hard ass to make sure that the visual designers don't take liberties. Now you may think, what's the big deal, right? But we found time and time again, a bunch of little changes will destroy the end result. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Embellishments, over-decorating, slightly changing stuff, and it kind of just goes a little off, a little off, and all of a sudden you're way, way off track. So here's the point. Visual embellishments will destroy the business purpose and the usability of your web experience a lot. So here's a tough test, and I have this in my book. I talk about this. This is a question you should ask all of your creative types and graphic designers. Does this visual element directly support an intended call to action? Write this down, tweet it. I don't care what you do with it, but remember it. Does this directly support an intended call to action on the page? If you can't answer yes to that, it shouldn't be on there. Pretty simple, cut and dried. Sorry, can't animate that button. Sorry, can't make a drop shadow. Sorry, can't make a separator in that box between the title and the forum. Why? No visual embellishments. And that might seem boring and Google-like, but guess what? They test all that stuff, and they make really simple user interfaces because they work. And they make them more money. That's the point, really. Okay, so the brand, don't let the brand Nazis take over. Okay, there's a great book, by the way, by Phil Barton called Decoded. If you haven't read this book, get it. It kind of unifies branding and web usability. Fantastic book called Decoded. And one of the things he says is that the expression of the brand doesn't matter. It's whether the brand, that expression evokes the right underlying concept in your head. Okay, so for example, if I said cowboys roping cattle, cigarette brand, anybody? Marlboro, of course, right? If I said the color red with really tall, skinny black and white letters, cigarette brand. Marlboro still, right? You could just have red and it evokes Marlboro. Does it have to be cowboys? No, it doesn't even have to be cowboys. So the point is that you associate, whether it's that color red or those cowboys, with the image of rugged masculinity and self-determination. I can fucking smoke till it kills me, right? That's the brand promise. As long as it maps to that mental concept, excuse my swearing, in your head, that's what's important. It's not important exactly what tall, skinny font they used. And yet brand guidelines, and we've seen this, one of our clients gave us a 179-page brand guideline document. 179 pages. You can't do anything that's not in there, or anything that's not allowed to be in there. It can't be on there. For example, on this, well, Canon's a great example. Their logo had to appear in red against a white background. So we solved that problem. We said, that's not a very easy color palette to work with. So we made the rest of the site kind of blue and goldenrod, and we just kind of had a fade out of white behind it. So technically, we met their brand guidelines. Okay, but the point isn't to have this slavish adherence to the letter of the law. The point is, if your brand actually does stand for something, how can you activate that concept inside of people's head using a different representation of the brand? So you should think of your job as actually experimenting with what evokes the right response in visitors. What puts that mental concept that's associated with that brand in their heads? Don't get stuck on the surface stuff. And really, basically, not your visitors, but really, the aesthetics of your design are what dominates. I challenge you to go look at your designer's portfolio. And if you go back and look at the websites they've built for you, you're going to find that a lot of them look pretty much the same. We all have our one-trick pony, and we ride it, and that's what we do, okay? It's the same thing. I'm a photographer, and I struggle continuously with always having my eye evolve, because I see a lot of photographers, oh, that's this guy's look. They have a look. Or, I don't want that. And I encourage you to fight against that too. Just because a designer has a look doesn't mean it's the right look for your business. So here's what you really need to think about if you're going to focus on visual designers. Understand that they have certain predispositions. We're all frustrated artists, right? As designers, and I can say that myself. So if you're managing these folks, here's my advice to you. Doesn't matter what they do on the weekend. Go to a rave, get your nipple pierced, doesn't matter. When you come back on Monday morning, think inside the box. You know what the box is? The box is the bank vault where your company puts its profit dollars. Think inside the box. Challenge them to say, why is this visual embellishment there on the page? It shouldn't be there. Boring often wins the day. Boring works. Start with boring, and if adding embellishments helps, great. But I would start with boring, because that's how it makes it really easy to prioritize the calls to action on the page. The way to think about it is your page should have a Zen-like stillness to it. And the calls to action should naturally arise out of that stillness. They should be easy to see, because on a quiet page, their medium shouldn't be loud. It shouldn't be everything competing with everything else on the page. How many of you have really busy, obnoxious pages? Come on. It's like group therapy for marketers here. Yeah. Think about it. Why are you competing with yourself? It's one thing to compete for the traffic and get them to your site, but you've done the hard part. Now give them a bullshit-free zone so that they can understand the relative importance of stuff. And that's done by being quiet and making some things a little bit louder. Okay? Don't do motion in your backgrounds. Anybody have parallax video on their site right now? Moving video backgrounds? Somebody's not admitting it. I know some of you are lying, but get that off. Anything that's a visual distraction, fads like that. It's kind of like in the 70s, when electronic music first came out. Everyone's using synthesizers, electric light orchestra, whatever. Right? Why? Because they could. This is the first time that kind of toy was made available to them. And there's all kinds of new technology fads coming out. Oh, look what we can do now. Great. Should you do it? Not necessarily, not unless it improves the user experience. And spend a lot of time on the stuff that you don't see. This is really the key. A lot of the improvements aren't on your landing page. A lot of the improvements are on how you segment your email follow-ups, or the text of the email follow-up, or the upsell on the thank you page, or the confirmation page that you're doing. That's where the gold is. Or changing your business model, or changing to a more flexible content management system instead of WordPress. Okay, those are all things you should be thinking about instead of the visual look and feel. All right, a few final thoughts. Who's seen the Lego movie? Everything is awesome. It's not. This is what a lot of us are doing. We're making money, and that covers up a lot of sins. But I really want you to be really, really hard on yourselves. I want you to be skeptical. I want you to become kind of focused on your visitors and their needs and say, we're doing things like crap. We're only thinking about ourselves. We're greedy marketers. Okay? And when you have to stay flexible and adapt, because for a lot of you, if you want, I know some of you work for yourselves, and that's great and wonderful. I'm surprised you got out of your pajamas to come here today, but the rest of you, if you want to advance in your career, if you're going to have a seat at the grown-up table, you have to start talking the language of business, okay? You have to start talking about how you're going to help the business. You can't talk about the technical details of your work. Our return on ad spend, or our keyword targeting, our spam filtering. Do you think your boss cares? I promise you, they don't. They speak one language. You know what that language is? Money. They speak money. So the way to accomplish all of this, and if I have to bring this around kind of full circle, the thing that you should be thinking of, whether it's over-testing or responsive design or letting your designers take the lead in it, what that does in all cases is take the focus off of your visitors and their needs. I want you to have one allegiance only. And that allegiance is to the needs of your website visitors, which is not the same as the needs of your company. It so happens that by serving your website visitors, you're going to make a ton more money for your company. That's the great news. But you have to do it by being that voice inside of your organization that says, no, this is wrong, this is messed up. Oh, that little friction point that we've seen 1,000 times and just kind of gloss right over because we're used to it is actually could be a major stumbling block. We should try getting rid of that. I want you to be an advocate for your visitors. Okay. So, again, I'm sorry if you don't like my conclusions. And before we go to the Q&A, I just want to leave you with this. This is a result of a lot of hard-won experience. We worked with about 1,200 clients over the years. So if you don't like my conclusions, go get some of your own experience. Okay. All right. Before we go to the Q&A, I'd like to ask you to fill out your questionnaires. Just do it right now. Just take 30 seconds. Okay. Tell them Tim's full of it. Or, Tim was pretty good, but he needs a new tailor. Whatever you want to put in there is fine. And then just leave them here. And then we're going to do, at the end of the Q&A, a drawing for these books. And also, how many are familiar with the Conversion Conference series that I founded and run? Oh, just a couple. Okay. If you really want to drink from the fire hose about conversions and learn everything about it, we're going to be right back here in Vegas in the middle of May at the Rio. We're going to have a huge conference, 4 tracks, 2 days, pre-conference workshops as well, 40 speakers, just some amazing practitioners in the field of conversion, everything from copywriting to usability to testing to neuromarketing to user experience. All of that's going to be part of the conference. The early bird rate, I believe, ends in a couple of weeks on the 31st. So you can sign up directly. Or I'm going to give away one fully transferable pass to Conversion Conference. So we have one big show in in the US a year. We used to have more regional shows. And then there's also Berlin and London, but this is for the Las Vegas show mid-May, okay? So if you're interested in that, pass your information, your business card if you have it, or just scribble on a card, to the middle aisle. We'll collect that at the end. I'll give away the books and sign them for you, and also give away that Conversion Conference pass. So at this point, how much time do we have?
15 minutes.
Perfect, 15 minutes for Q&A. Hit me, tell me I'm full of it, ask me questions. I'm here to give as much as I can. Rob? I'm full of it, thank you.
No, you mentioned using something besides WordPress and CMS.
Mm-hmm.
A, what's wrong with WordPress? B, what do you recommend?
Okay, again, drinking Kool-Aid. The question was, what's wrong with WordPress? Nothing inherently wrong with it. It's a really antiquated blogging platform that has been stretched to the limits. But because it was quote-unquote free, there's a whole ecosystem of developers and plugins and other useful stuff around it. But really, you don't have the flexibility to do the kind of very rapid, quick changes. It's not really set up well for mobile experiences or for doing split testing. There's some plugins for doing rudimentary split testing with it. It's just, no offense, it was never designed to be a full-on content management system. It was a blogging platform. And it's kind of, they've stretched it as much as it'll go, okay? But the folks that we see, by the way, when I say, don't get me wrong, nobody quote me as saying testing is bad and fast testing is bad. Okay, if you're going to do testing, do it well and do it fast, okay? That presupposes you're on a flexible content management system that can do it. Can you test on mobile right now in WordPress easily? You'd have someone do it for you. You'd have to find somebody and then they would do something using some plugin or proprietary technology and they'd glue some code to your site to do it. What if it was built into the platform and you could do it yourself today? The iteration time, the cycle time is your speed advantage. And if you are going to test, you can kick their ass by testing faster. It's not the only thing you should be doing, but that's one of those platform level things that you can't get away from if you're stuck with the wrong one. And believe me, we were on Joomla against my better judgment for 3 or 4 years before we got all of our stuff migrated off. It was a very painful experience. So free is not free. Just because the platform's free, what it costs you is opportunity cost in doing things right or doing things quickly or testing the kinds of things you'd want to test. Okay, so that's my...
You didn't answer B. What do you recommend?
What I recommend? It depends completely on your situation. But I mean, come on, there's a couple of hundred CMSs out there. I'm sure there's one that's right for you. In fact, there's some consultancies, some are e-commerce specific, for example. The Fit for Commerce is an agency that just tells large e-commerce companies which e-commerce platform to use. It's not a simple decision, don't get me wrong. But you do have a lot of choice. Other questions, please? Yes? So if the question was for landing page development, if you're not going to use a designer, what do I suggest? I didn't say don't use a designer. I said bring them in at the very end of the process to essentially, very literally and unimaginatively, put polish on the functional part of the site. So if you can't agree on whether your offer is going to be 3 side-by-side choices or a list of 5 vertical choices, that's not something your designer should be deciding. That's my point. Okay? But then if you say, okay, we're going to do 3 side-by-side choices, that's our business decision, that's our offer set, how much visual emphasis do we give our best value or preferred offer? That's something you can go back and forth with the designer until you get it right. Okay, but that's the last step. That's the polishing step. Okay, the functional stuff, what's our business model? What's the flow of our site? What's on each page? What controls we have? What headlines? Okay, that should be decided before anybody says, well, I like the purple button better, because that's what will happen. And people, we can't get out of our own way. We can't figure out, we're very biased towards the visual modality. 90% of the trillions, literally, of bits of information coming into our brain every day come through the visual channel. We're very good at visual stuff. We can instantly, 1/20th of a second is how long it takes us to form a first visual impression of a landing page. 50 milliseconds. We're really good at it. Okay, there's a lot of hardware devoted to it. So don't engage that part yet. Don't do the coloring. It's just color by numbers, or it should be pretty close to color by numbers by the time you get to the visual part. Okay. Yeah, so the question was services like lead pages or Unbounce that are just designed to, that have conversion tracking built in and are useful. They're great. I mean, we have a lot of clients that use Unbounce and lead pages, and those are good for standalone. Ion Interactive is another company kind of in that sphere as well. So if you have a corporate website involved and you can't touch the sacrosanct, content management system that it's on, well, great. Have some skunkworks projects off to the side where you have your own microsites or landing pages, and you as the marketer completely control them. I'm all for that. I'm totally for marketer control unassisted by IT types. Okay, and by the way, I'm a recovering technologist. I almost got my PhD, but let's face it, folks. IT people don't like people, and people don't like IT people. Are we clear on that? So keep them in the back room, slide steaks under the door, raw meat every once in a while. Jolt Cola actually works better than raw meat. But they should, okay, you want to pick up some gold laying on the ground right now? You ready? Go to your website and try to be an idiot and break it. Because you know how to operate and you're not going to make any of the mistakes. Try to be an idiot. Or as my grad school advisor once said, never overestimate people's capacity for stupidity. Okay? Try to break your site. And what you're going to find are the little tracks of the IT folks, because they're involved in all the error handling. And you designed a site for the perfect experience. But you didn't say what would happen when they put in a credit card number with spaces, which is how most of us do it, because they're 4-digit blocks, right? You put in a space, you go, oh, you put in an invalid credit card number, you're an ass, right? Because that's the error message that your IT folks put in there. Right? If you could strip out, make them do a little extra work, strip out any spaces or non-numeric digits, make sure it's the right number of digits, and then process it anyway, or be helpful in your wording of even the message you give them. It's like, oops, that doesn't look like a valid credit card number. Can you try again, please? Okay, that kind of stuff, there's a lot of little nooks and crannies where error handling and how you do that and graceful recovery can make you a lot more money, especially if you have long forms and complicated processes. So. Other questions? Oh, you guys want to get to the free lunch, right? Okay, no, we're going to give away the book. So if you're interested in the book or a fully transferable pass to conversion conference, pass your stuff to the center aisle, please, and then pass those up if you would. And I'm going to do a quick drawing, and I'll autograph and sign the books for the folks that, Rob, you can't play. You already have a copy. Yeah. Okay, so pass them up to the front, please, along the center aisle, and then I'll do a quick drawing. Any other questions, folks? I'm here to help. Anybody else? Oh, no, not the feedback questionnaires, your business card or some way, your email and name, please. Okay, it's like we're in Vegas, so I'm just going to say, I got to give you the warning. No more bets. The roulette wheel is in play. Okay. Thank you so much. All right, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 copies of the book, and then we'll draw for the, come on up, sir. We'll draw for the conversion conference pass. Thank you. All righty. So, not looking. Okay, number 1, and then just come up here at the end and I'll sign them for you. Eric Kozak. Then we have Vitaly Servutas. And being from Russia, I hope I didn't slaughter that too badly, but that sounds Eastern European to me. Number 3 would be Ignacio Ferrer. Okay. Number 4 is Neetu Rao. If you could put your email on that, that'd be great. Number 5, you may already be a winner, at least for the next few seconds, is Anna Radu. And finally, number 6 is Brian Osterhout. Okay, Brian. Okay, and then finally, this is the fully transferable pass, May 13th and 14th at the Rio, right here back in town for the conversion conference. And that goes to Alistair Barretto. All right. Well, thank you all for spending this hour with me. And again, I'll be glad to chat right after the session, so come on up and chat. Have a great afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the show.